Hello everybody and welcome back to Pravus Gaming and more Democracy 3 Presidential Suite playing as Soviet Russia. Getting closer every day, guys. Every frickin' day. Last video we, had to deal with the brain drain, and in order to get rid of this as quickly as possible, we canceled the income tax for just a few months. That's all we're gonna do, but it's already costing us several hundred billion rubles. I mean, our national debt is going to go to an all-time high, and it's going to stay up there for a very, very long time. But it's working. It is going down pretty darn quick. I'm expecting very soon we will be able to get rid of that. Also, on top of this, I had a thought. What was it? Crap. Oh yeah, we disarmed the population. There we go. We disarmed the population with a total gun ban, and we also affirmed state atheism, moving more toward a thematically appropriate form of the Soviet Union. So, let's go ahead and progress into year 10, I believe it is. Yep. Capitalist plot, no surprise. A spy scandal. The Patriots are super unhappy about this one. Let's see. One of our senior intelligence officials, has turned out to be a double agent for an unfriendly nation. Well, that's a bit of a problem. Huh. Egalitarian society is at an end, and road accidents are at an end. Well, that's pretty good, at least. Not bad. Spies. You know, in my particular line of work, we talk about spies, or usually economic espionage, but, you know, just sort of in general, the FBI gives us briefings about spies and stuff to look out for kind of all the time. There even is stuff about Russian spies. I'm trying to remember what her name was. There was this woman who was a Russian spy, and she basically got caught by the FBI when they posed as Russian agents or Russian officials, and she tried to give information to them. But then she got basically deported back to Russia, and Russia pretty much gave her a full pardon, gave her a medal, basically, for it. And I think she became, like, an actual celebrity because she was a very good-looking woman. I think she did, like, she was on, like, a fashion parade and stuff like that. I don't know. She became, like, a big celebrity. I think she still, like, hosts a TV show in Russia. What was it, like, Mysteries of the World or something like that in Russia? I don't know. She was a former spy. We caught her in the U.S., Just one of those hilarious things you get to learn from the FBI when you sit in those briefings. It's kind of funny. And this is public knowledge, by the way, so I'm not really, you know, breaking anything, at least not as far as I'm aware. God, I hope not. Anyway. Alright, so how's the brain drain looking? It's gone! It's gonna be gone very soon. Okay. Now notice this, by the way. This is gone 3 turns later. That's all it took. Normally, the inertia would take 4 turns. Plus, I think it usually would stay, like, kind of even and then eventually kick in. So we probably shaved off 1 or 2 turns of the brain drain by canceling the income tax rather than reducing it to a minimum. Kind of weird. Now, it does increase my political capital costs, but I do believe that it works. Now we have to go ahead and introduce a new one. Income tax. Yeah, so we have just enough political capital. 43, that is expensive. Now, we could go to where we were before, which is about 55%, and that increases the brain drain by 42.2%. However, we already know at our current status, if I do this in the next few years, it'll probably come right back. So we don't want to go to 55% taxes anymore. We could go down to, like, let's say, 45. Now, that's a difference of 34% instead of 42%. So really, we're giving ourselves about an 8% buffer in the brain drain event. Do I feel comfortable with that? I don't know. I mean, no, not really. I could reduce this down to, like, let's say 40% instead. Now, granted, that means I'm losing out on almost 40 billion rubles per quarter by reducing it that much. But brain drain only goes up to 30% instead of 42. That's a 12% buffer that should last me for the rest of the game and guarantee the brain drain never comes back and becomes a problem. And in the meantime, getting an extra 100 billion rubles per quarter we know is enough to give us a pretty tidy surplus for a while anyway. I mean, our national debt's going to be terrible, but at least we'll get a surplus, a budgetary surplus for the rest of the game. We won't be running a deficit. So I think this will be okay, and in the meantime, earnings for everyone goes up and productivity gets to go up a bit as well, which is okay with me. Also, we'll probably get our equality back from our egalitarian society. So yeah, I think we go ahead and pass the income tax and then move on directly into the next turn because, you know, that's all we could do. Brain drain is gone. Also, look at the GDP. It's going up. This is great. I love it. Keep doing that, man. Keep doing that. Underground nightclubs. People go to underground nightclubs to consume alcohol and drugs illegally. How dare they? Conservatives want these clubs closed down. That would, however, anger many young people. Now, how can that be the case? I have the young people getting indoctrinated in my pioneer movement, don't I? Or are these the ones that slip through the cracks? Or are they being rebellious? No. You cannot engage in wrongthink in the Soviet Union. That's not allowed. Absolutely not. We can send in the police. These bastions of sin must be razed. Absolutely. Not for religious reasons, but because, we told you kids not to do things like that, and then you did. You broke the law. Now you get punished. Okay? That's what you get. It actually did reduce alcohol consumption by a good 6%. That's pretty nice. Pretty darn nice if you ask me. All right, we have 36 political capital to work with. What should we do with it? Well, we could, what actually could we do? I'm actually really shocked that the GDP is going up this much. This is amazing. It has mostly to do with the global economy continually going up. That's pretty great. Oh, look at this. Yeah, we're doing good relative to the global economy right now. Makes things a heck of a lot easier when the world isn't in a recession. And our surplus goes back up to 27 billion right like that. That's perfect. Thank you. Okay. I guess we should continue working more and more toward the proper USSR. And what is one of the thing that you think of when you think of Soviet Russia and the Cold War? What was the Cold War really about? What was hanging over everyone's head? Of course, nukes. So why don't we go ahead and pass a nuclear program? I mean, come on. If we're playing as the USSR, we freaking gotta have nukes, right? Freaking absolutely. I mean, when I think of Soviet Russia, I think Cold War, I think the tension between the Russians and the United States, escalation of nuclear warheads. I think to this day, Russia still has more nuclear warheads than the USA, which, obviously is a little bit disconcerting for some of us. Mutually assured destruction and all that, I mean, it's fun. It's actually interesting because I've heard some arguments made. I'm not sure if they're foolproof arguments, but they are interesting arguments that mutually assured destruction, also known as MAD, is actually one of the best things that's ever happened to humankind. And that sounds really crazy because it's like, well, wait a minute, we basically have, the threat of imminent death at any time. Yes, the reason that some people are arguing that that's actually a good thing for us right now is because it's brought about an unprecedented time of peace in human history. I mean, when you really think about the last, 20, 30-ish years or so in Earth's history, this has been one of the calmest periods ever. Less wars, less deaths from war and violence in that sense. And a big part of it is because we can't go to war without being threatened with absolute destruction. And because there's less war, less fighting between the major superpowers, in theory, we're actually going to be okay. We're actually seeing humanity progress a little bit better. That's the argument. Again, I'm not sure it's foolproof. Obviously, we'd rather that happens without the threat of, the extinction of mankind. But hey, we'll take what we can get. In the meantime, for the nuclear program, we can have a simple experimental system, limited scale, civilian use, so nuclear power plants, stuff like that. They produce electricity at a rather low cost, and also tactical or strategic weapons. Yes, nukes! Nukes! We have to do that. Now, let's see. The benefits of this is it greatly increases energy efficiency, and you can actually do this for relatively cheap. You can see here that it really spikes up in effectiveness. There's kind of an exponential curve going on there, which is interesting. So even if you had experimental, it's very cheap, and you can get a huge benefit. Look at this. 74 million just to get the basic, well, okay, a little bit higher than that. So let's spike it up to about, let's say, here. 392 million in order to increase our energy efficiency by 24%, which we know increases the GDP, so this probably pays for itself. It's amazing. The downside is it upsets the environmentalists. It does reduce the environment a little bit and upsets foreign relations. Foreign relations is obvious. The environment, I guess the thing that we are worried about would be radiation, which makes sense in the event of a leak or some sort of disaster. Fukushima comes to mind as the most recent one. Although, if a nuclear plant is built correctly and has plenty of precautions, I would argue they're actually pretty darn safe. I think I've read some research that suggests that you actually absorb more radiation sleeping next to your spouse at night from the potassium in their body, as opposed to radiation from a properly built nuclear power plant. So realistically, it shouldn't be safe until it should be safe. Sorry, until it's a problem, if it ever is, which is a very rare event, and I don't really think it's killed very many people. I mean, I'm trying to think of like 3 Mile Island or whatever. I don't think anyone died from that event, did they? They managed to evacuate completely. I don't know, my wife and I were having a discussion about this earlier today. I'm personally of the belief that nuclear technology is absolutely crucial for human development at this point. Because I'm looking at data about, like climate change and CO2 and stuff like that, and not even just that, also just pollution in general coming from coal, oil, natural gas. And I look at a lot of people saying, hey, we need to move toward green technology, wind and solar and stuff. It's economically viable. Well, no, not really. Not anywhere near to the efficiency of something like coal, oil, natural gas. I mean, you could switch to wind and solar power, but what you're probably going to find is that the cost of your electricity will go way up because it's harder to produce it to the quantity that we are going to need. But if we don't, then we're probably looking at polluting the planet and creating a lot of issues, right? That's sort of the idea. This, to me, I look at nuclear power as kind of the perfect solution to this problem. That and hydroelectric. Hydroelectric is also quite good. But something that actually can be invested in. It's a very high initial upfront capital cost, but nuclear power is actually relatively cheap to operate considering how much power you get out of it. A phenomenal amount of power, far less CO2, far less pollution. I mean, it seems to me that this is a great option. It helps save the environment. At the same time, it also produces enough electricity that we don't reduce our standard of living. The downside, of course, is, one, what happens if something goes wrong, and two, what do you do with nuclear waste? Now, a lot of nuclear waste can be refined and re-enriched and recycled. It's actually something that France does pretty consistently, I believe. I think they send a lot of their stuff up to, is it Russia, to actually get re-enriched, and then they use it in their nuclear power plants, but I don't know. I look at this as a very good option. Obviously, there are some serious concerns involved, and that should be very carefully done, but I see this as the only real viable option out there. But a lot of environmentalists don't agree with me on that point. I don't know. I just don't think that wind and solar, at least in its current stage, is anywhere near economically viable, nowhere near enough to justify it. I think you're going to see your energy prices skyrocket substantially. And as a result, I suspect that the quality of life and everything's going to get more expensive, cost of living goes up, quality of life goes down. I'd like to find a solution that doesn't involve that. I think nukes are the solution. But, this, I'm not always correct, and a lot of people have a tendency to disagree, and nuclear technology is scary. That's the most common thing that I hear. It scares me. Okay, I mean, your fear isn't necessarily a good, justification for policy, but okay. We'll move on from that anyway. So yeah, nuclear program, we're going to have tactical nukes. That seems appropriate for Soviet Russia. Let's go ahead and move on. What else do we want to do? Something I would like to do is continue focusing on some foreign relations. We are about to reduce that with this nuclear program. Let's try to make this up a little bit. Because with foreign relations being this low, we are putting ourselves at a bit of risk. So let's go ahead and pass the diplomatic service. This is a relatively cheap thing that we can do that improves our foreign relations by 7.5%, which should make up what we lost from the nuclear program by about 2 3/4 percentage points. So, yeah, that seems pretty good. Let's move on into the next turn. Please don't get assassinated. Please don't get assassinated. I'm not dead. Yes! Okay. Oh, that's a bit of a problem. Okay, so teacher shortage is gone. Finally, gosh, it took years of maximum funding, but it finally happened. Cyber warfare and machine uprising. This is what I was trying to avoid in the last video by cutting down on our robotic research grants substantially. And it happened anyway. That's not good. Turns out the Luddites were right to be worried. The machines are trying to kill us all. Also, cyber warfare sucks. That's really bad. Okay. Custody over children. With increasing divorce rates, we need to decide the principles for custody of children in those cases where both parents are suitable but cannot agree with one another. Conservatives prefer single custody, or liberals prefer joint custody. I think we go for the single custody to make conservatives happier, since, there's no pleasing liberals at this point in my career. It's just not going to happen. So, yeah, okay. Cyber warfare. Wow, that has been steadily going up for a while. The AI administration puts us very vulnerable, which I guess should not surprise me. GDP going up means that there's more reason to attack us because we have money to steal. Technology. Our foreign relations are so low that that's making it worse. Now, we could try to reduce this by passing more internet censorship, but obviously that's a problem in and of itself. Oops, that's foreign subversion. Hang on. Intelligence services, we could do that, but that increases police brutality and reduces the computer industry. And it doesn't even do much for cyber warfare, it just does a lot for foreign subversion, so this isn't even very good option. No. What about spending? We're actually already close to very maxed out on military spending, so I'm not sure that does anything for us there either. Yowzas. And this is reducing our GDP by 20%? Dear Lord. That's so much. Okay. Okay, what about the machine uprising? Violent crime goes up, Patriot membership goes down, but they're not as happy. This is not actually a huge deal, but it's not good. And again, the AI administration is the primary driver of this thing. Okay. Military spending is reducing it. So the better we fund our military, I mean, really? Sorry, I had a thought, but I got distracted. Handgun laws? Oh, I had no idea there was a relation to this. Because we disarmed the populace, the robots were like, hey, we see an opportunity to take over. Let's kill all humans. Oh my god, I had no idea. Okay, so I guess with the clones and drones expansion, that's one reason not to restrict handguns too much. Robots might come and kill you. Wow, anyway, okay. Military spending and national service, the better we arm our population, the stronger our military is. Probably the more likely we'll be able to fight off the machines. AI administration, police drones, robotics research grants. Wait a minute, I reduced this down to... Oh, it hasn't finished going away yet. 32 turns inertia! Oh, screw this! That's stupid. So this is what I was worried about before. The reason I reduced this down to 0, because I was like, I'm pretty darn sure this greatly impacts machine uprising. And sure enough, even at only 500 million, we were looking at 20%. Gosh, you max this out. Look at this. 72. If you max out robotics research grants, it's just a matter of time before you get the machine uprising. It's guaranteed. Wow. So yeah, reducing this down to 0 was the right choice. It's just going to take forever for it to do anything. Friggin' heck, man, that seems a little bit harsh. But okay. I guess the most obvious thing to do then, if we want to try to reduce the cyber warfare and reduce the machine uprising, would be to go to the AI administration and say we don't want to have a sovereign system anymore. We want to reduce it down to, let's just say an integrated system instead. Now, the downside of doing this is we were getting some pretty awesome benefits from having the AI administration. Our health was going up, our education was going up, our computer industry was really nice and doing nicely. And also it increased our unemployment, which helped us control the labor shortages, so that was great. But unfortunately, because it is so heavily contributing to cyber warfare, machine uprisings, and industrial automation, which leads to the Luddite riots, I think we have to reduce this. Let's reduce it down to about half. We'll do an integrated system, but it's not going to be sovereign anymore. Pull the plug! That's what we're going to do. Wow. That is rough, man. That is really freaking rough. I suppose one other thing we could try to do. Oh, no, I can't do it right now. Well, I was going to do it instead. Signals intelligence. I haven't used this before, but I do think it reduces cyber warfare and foreign subversion. We'll have to come back to that next turn, though. Instead, why don't we try working on, oh, frickin' heck, I don't know. We could continue trying to work on other parts of the economy. How's the traffic congestion doing now? Still up there. Oh my god. There's no way, man. We can try to invest in it some more. I mean, what if we did, what if we did some free bus passes? We can afford that. That's relatively cheap. We passed a law allowing for bus lanes. Now let's give everyone free bus passes so they have to use the bus. Poor earnings goes up. Okay, I mean, that's good. Bus usage goes up by another 16%. Not as good as the bus lanes, which is interesting, because this way it's actually free. Bus lanes were just convenient, and they were more effective. Fascinating. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll go ahead and pass that, but... Dang, man. I don't know how we're ever going to fix our traffic congestion. Poor earnings are doing fantastically, by the way. This is amazing. Okay, we had a failed assassination attempt. That does kind of suck. Road accidents are back. Credit rating downgraded? Why? We're making money. If we're making money and our debt's going down, I mean, granted, I understand it's really high. It was like 700 billion, but if we're making more money now, we have a surplus. Why are you making it worse? And of course, another media backlash, which kind of sucks, but oh well. GDP, it says, is still going up, and education is about maxed out. Absolutely fantastic, man. The global economy, this is really helping me. So very much. Alright, so we did reduce the AI administration. I guess the next thing we can go ahead and take a look at... Whoops, that is the wrong one. Why don't we take a look at signals intelligence? Now, I never used this before, but just reading the description of this, it sounds like it does help with trying to reduce foreign subversion and cyber warfare. So, yeah, this actually does directly attack cyber warfare. Okay. Now, the downside of this is it reduces foreign relations, it upsets liberals, it reduces technology a little bit, but not too much. It's not absurd. Military strength is good, though. Now that said, I hate to reduce foreign relations too much. If we were able to improve our foreign relations, that would actually help get rid of cyber warfare as well. So what if we did just a straight up 850 million per quarter? This increases our military strength by almost 10%, which I imagine is going to be good for fighting back the robots. Cyber warfare goes down by 25%, which is pretty good. Technology, barely affected at all. A little bit of a hit to our foreign relations, but otherwise I think we can probably handle that. So that shouldn't be too darn bad. Okay, yeah, it's actually going down pretty dramatically just from changing up the AI administration. That's good. So probably between the two of these, eventually reducing, that should be enough to get it below the stop trigger, I would think. The machine uprising might be a little bit harder to deal with, especially since police drones are still actually pushing it up, but we're reducing the AI administration, so eventually that should reduce it by about 30%, actually. Probably not enough to go below that stop trigger, though. Good lord. You have to go really far down here. You have to practically eliminate it entirely in order to get rid of the machine uprising. That kind of sucks. Kind of wonder if I should have let people keep their guns, but oh well. This is the price we pay for disarming the populace. The robots come to kill us at night. Okay. What else do we want to do? How's alcohol abuse, by the way? Still not great. Really? It's alcohol consumption. I bet you the GDP going up. Yep, GDP going up and poverty being gone is just making this worse and worse. Also, the less religious people we have, I guess the more prone people are to drinking alcohol. Because, you know, certain religious denominations basically say drunkenness is bad, and maybe even alcohol itself entirely is bad. I can think of at least a couple of Christian denominations in the United States that think that pretty much all alcohol is bad all the time. Most just agree that drunkenness is not good, but some take it a little bit further than that. Which I do find a little bit hilarious because, you know, according to the New Testament, Jesus turned water into wine. So clearly he can't be that much against alcohol, but okay. Whatever, maybe I say that a little bit out of ignorance of those denominations and their particular beliefs. But anyway, we do want to reduce this alcohol consumption. I suppose one thing I could do is change the alcohol law again and make it stricter. Or I could introduce more of an alcohol tax. This will upset people and usually would go to increasing a black market, but because of our fraud agency, we've pretty much guaranteed that the black market can never come back. So I guess this is okay. Now, it does reduce equality and it upsets some people, it increases poverty, but I think we're so far below the poverty threshold, this shouldn't be much of an issue for me, so meh, and it makes us a little bit of money, but mostly it reduces alcohol consumption by a further 10%, which improves our productivity, which improves our GDP. Also, getting rid of the alcohol abuse will save me a few billion rubles, if we can get by with that. So, oh well. Alright, before we end up this video, is there anything else we want to do? Let's see. A few things here we could do, but nothing that I think is really that useful. Financial regulation is not as good as you might think, by the way. This might seem like something you really want to do in a kind of a socialist nation, but it really hurts our financial sector, which is a big driver of the GDP, for very little benefit. What about compulsory food labeling? That's healthy, right? I think so. Yeah. Well, oh crap, it reduces the GDP. I mean, if we can reduce it down a bit, I mean, we can reduce it down to minimum and it increases the health by 2% for practically free. I mean, I guess it's always worth it from that perspective. What if we increase it a little bit? Like, let's say right here. It reduces the GDP by 0.14%. That's practically imperceptible for a 2.5% health increase. I mean, it's okay. Probably not the best use of political capital I've ever used, but, I mean, it'll kind of work for us. Okay. So, cyber warfare, I think, is going to go away in the next, probably 3 or 4 turns. Foreign subversion probably will not go away until I can improve foreign relations, and with signals intelligence and stuff, I can't imagine that's going to get much better. What we may end up having to do, maybe not right now because we have no political capital, but we may end up having to do is pass foreign aid. We can spend some money, greatly increase our foreign relations, because nothing improves a relationship like, you know, throwing a little bit of money their way. Wink, wink. It also does increase the global economy, though, which is something that is added into this mod pack that I think a lot of people overlook. Improving the global economy is good because the stronger the global economy is, the better our economy is going to do as well. So it almost pays for itself, and in the meantime, the foreign relations can get rid of some of these other negative events. The machine uprising, I'm not really sure what to do. I guess I'm going to have to focus a bit more on the military, probably increase our national service. Yeah, that would go a pretty long way to reduce this. That's something I think I'll do next video. But in the meantime, I think we have to end it here, so thank you all very much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed. If so, then be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And I, as always, will see you guys next time.